some profit off the pain of others. While gates, both visible and invisible, separate the wealthy from the hungry. When the consequences of these barriers result in everything from flooded homes to broken dreams. When death is a cost we have grown accustomed to bearing, we cannot compromise in our pursuit of justice. We cannot retreat in the face of inequity. We cannot ignore the patterns of brutality. We will not be silenced. The depression is coming in heavy. I can feel it from all corners, shape-shifting around me. Betrayal lays like a heavy fog in the air I breathe. I know I'm a target, but I must keep moving. On this blistering August day, we stand face to face with our beloved country, as we have done so many times before, and demand your very fabric must be changed. You must be born again. And as our final hour draws ever closer, it seems to me in my sanctified imagination that we cry now,
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our final event of the Steans Center at Steans Center for Community-Based Service Learning Program. My name is Kalia Liggins. I am a program manager at the Steans Center here at DePaul. Briefly about who we are, we support DePaul students as well as community partners and as well as faculty development. Today, as we have shifted to a virtual space, we wanted to engage our audiences, our community partners, and the Chicagoland community at large in a virtual setting. So we had a host of events throughout this term. And as I mentioned earlier, this is our final one. And so I wanted to welcome you to this space today for the next hour or so to engage with our conversation as we particularly share one particular story that I have recently come to be aware of. And I think it's highly impactful for the landscape of social justice and, you know, how many people do not have opportunities in life that they rightfully should as human beings. So again, I want to thank you to this space, and I would like to welcome, well, before I do that, a couple of housekeeping rules. As you all come in, would you please make sure that you are muted unless you are preparing to speak. You can change your video blogs to whatever name you prefer, including your pronouns, hovering over the top right of your video and changing that there. We will hear from a couple of our coordinators. We have student representatives from the Students Against Incarceration student group here at DePaul. Joining us as well as members of Keith LaMar's campaign team, who will also have an opportunity to speak with you later on. I would like to let everyone know as well that this event will be recorded. And we have some other fun surprises later on before we hear from the guest of honor, Keith LaMar himself, a little later. So again, welcome to this space. I would like to, for one, shift over to introducing our facilitators for today's event. Grace and James from the Students Against Incarceration group, who have dedicated so much time to helping us plan for this event. I would like to transition over to them at this moment to share a little bit about themselves, what grade, level they are, how they became involved with the Students Against Incarceration, what exactly that is, and how we can support. So I'll transition over to James and Grace at this moment. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is James. I'm currently a senior at DePaul, majoring in sociology, and I've been involved with Students Against Incarceration since my freshman year. So Students Against Incarceration is an organization that was founded by DePaul students, and we usually hold weekly meetings in which we discuss aspects of the prison industrial complex and prison abolition, as well as building support for people who are directly impacted by incarceration. The organization was founded by students who had taken classes through the Inside Out Prison Exchange program at Stateville Correctional Center and Cook County Jail, in which the classes are half outside DePaul students and half incarcerated students at the facility. And SAI has also facilitated a book club at Cook County Jail, which was in person before the pandemic, but has now been held through correspondence for the last 3 quarters. And we've also engaged in several campaigns at DePaul and in Chicago that aim to reduce the harm of incarceration, including the Ban the Box campaign, which Grace can also speak a little bit more about.
Yeah, I'm Grace, she, her pronouns. I've been involved in SAI now since my sophomore year. And the Ban the Box campaign is a campaign that SAI brought to DePaul's campus to remove the question of criminal history from college applications. It's a more national campaign that also attempts to remove the question from housing and education housing and employment applications. We have been involved in writing legislation and supporting legislation throughout Illinois. And most recently, we have gotten somewhat of a soft ban the box here at DePaul. They have moved the question from pre-acceptance to post-acceptance, and now there is a review board in the works that we are getting a little bit of insight on. We are still in the hopes to ban the box completely and ban the box in Illinois completely as well.
And I've just put some links in the chat for our social media pages as well as our email. So please feel free to reach out to us there if you're interested in getting more involved with the organization or learning more about what we do.
Thank you, Grace and James. And one of our last speakers, but certainly not least, that I want to introduce the guest of honor, Keith LaMar, who we have here. I just want to, for one, extend my gratitude to you for taking the time out of your day to share in this space with us, to be vulnerable. As I mentioned, I know we are here to hear from you and really, share via audio, our sentiments and this experience. So we want you to, please feel free to relax and just share as much or as little as you would like. We have a lot of people here, from community leaders, faculty, staff at DePaul, faculty and community members from external universities and colleges here, people of all walks, backgrounds, ages here, really to hear from you and share this space. So without further ado, I will transition over to you, Keith. Thank you again for this opportunity. One last thing before we transition just to the participants, I would like to let you know, as we are phoning Keith in from the jail, that we will have a 15-minute increment in between calls. So if you do hear, that kind of chiming in and out, please don't be distracted by it. We will definitely pause as many times as necessary. He's dedicated this time, so we're going to get through this as long as it takes. But just so you know, when you hear those sounds, we're transitioning over possibly. So Thank you so much. Before we transition, can everyone, if you want, please come off mute for a moment, just say hello to Keith and welcome him to this space before he begins with opening remarks and we begin the slideshow. So I'll start. Hello, Keith.
Hi, Keith.
Hi, Keith.
Hi,
Hi,
Keith.
Keith. Welcome.
Welcome.
Great to have you.
Hello.
We'll get the share screen up in a moment before we transition over to Keith. I think we're transitioning calls now, but as, okay. Let's see here. Just to let everyone know, we're trying to get Keith on the phone again. One moment.
Kalia, I'm going to talk through the computer a minute. You are not hearing Keith. Okay.
No, we are not.
Hold on a second. We're going to go to the phone line. You're going to have to unmute the phone line from your end. You have the phone line muted there. Maybe I can do it.
It's from the phone. Okay, I can do that.
Okay, so Keith, I'm going to ask you to start over.
Okay.
Excuse me?
Go ahead and start back at your beginning remarks. The computer program was.
Well, I tell you what, let me just call again. That way I can have a fresh start time-wise. And
Okay.
then we just start over. Just start over. It's
Yep.
no problem.
Yep. That's no big deal.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, I think that worked perfectly. We have the sound on.
Yeah.
And so we're waiting for Keith to call in now, just to kind of let you all know. Feel free as you listen to gather your questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. I will be watching that as well as some of the other team members here, and we'll ask them later on in the call to Keith. And we also have a little surprise, don't tell him, later on that we'll announce for Keith as well. So we'll wait for him to call back now.
Okay. And thank you all for being patient here as we get started. Technology from a prison is kind of a challenge sometimes, but now that we have that figured out, we can unmute him. So it'll be good moving forward. We're ready. Okay. He'll be here just in a second. Okay, here he comes.
This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using GTL.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, let me know when you're ready, okay?
We're ready for you. Go ahead.
All right, I'll just start over, and that way you can have a clean recording, okay? That way when we put it on the website and whatnot, all right? Okay. Hello again, everybody. So sorry about that. It happens under circumstance. You just learn to roll with the punches, so to speak. It's a miracle that I'm even able to call, a small miracle. And so I try not to let these little blips faze me. So hello again. My name is Keith LaMar. I'm a wrongfully convicted death row prisoner in the state of Ohio. DePaul is hosting this talk-in this afternoon, and I just want to take a few moments to say thank you to the staff and students who organized this event. Thank you so much. It really means a lot. Aside from Mami Abu Jamal, who's probably the only famous prisoner in America. Not a lot of people in my situation.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Not a lot of people in my position get the opportunity to do what I'm doing. And so I take it very seriously. As I said, I'm on death row, and which means I'm fighting for my life. And so I try to take advantage of these opportunities as much as I possibly can just to get my voice out, just to get my story out. But I also want to make it clear that I'm not here to just speak solely or only about myself. There's quite a few other guys who got caught up in the Lucasville prison uprising, who got caught up in these tainted prosecutions and have been sentenced to life without parole. And because of that, they don't really have a voice or the means or the resources or whatever reason to, do what I'm doing now. So I just want to make sure that everybody who is listening to this call, that they understand that too, that there's quite a few other guys who are involved in this story. But just for the sake of time and for the sake of conversation, I'll focus on my own situation and hope from that you all are able to get at least a snapshot of what I've been going through over the past almost 3 decades now. As I started or began to say in the last call, there's over 50,000 prisoners here in the state of Ohio. In the United States as a whole, there's over 2.3 million people behind bars, and over 6 million or so who are on probation or parole, in excess of 8 million people are who are under some form of government supervision. So when you hear the word mass incarceration, this is what they're talking about. Millions of human beings who have been reduced to numbers on a spreadsheet. My number is 317117. As I said at the outset, my name is Keith LaMar. But technically, all you have to do to reach me is put that number. So the number supersedes the name that I was given at birth. And it exemplifies that I was the 317,117th prisoner that was processed through the prison system here in Ohio. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around that, the whole being reduced to a number thing. And I'm going into my 32nd year of being here. I didn't really realize that until I started to think about it the other day. Never in a million years did I believe that something like this could happen to me. 28 of those years have been spent in solitary confinement. 28 years. In a single man cell about as big as the average closet or parking space, just to give you all a sense of the size of what I'm living in. I was going to ask you all to imagine what it's like to live in a place like this, but that's probably impossible for you to do, and so I won't do that. Instead,
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Yeah, so instead of asking you to imagine that, I'll just ask you to imagine being somewhere that you enjoy being, with people who you enjoy being around. At a football game, your favorite restaurant or something like that. And you know how quickly time passes when you are having fun, as the cliche, as that saying goes. You look down at your watch, at your phone, or whatever, you can't believe that time went by so fast. Well, being here is the exact opposite of that. Everything moves, at a real slow pace. And if you don't know how to manage your time, it could be torturous. I've seen and been around a lot of people who have lost their mind because they couldn't handle the monotony of being in this situation. So it's a very torturous situation. if you don't have the resources and the means and the knowledge to navigate it. And that's it. You have to figure out how to utilize your time, how to make it work for you. And when I first arrived here in 1995, I met an old man named Snoop. He, through music, taught me how to step outside of time. He taught me this thing called absorption, which is like the complete occupation of your thoughts. And he taught me how to delve into things, how to get outside of, this place. And in showing me that, he really taught me how to stay alive. Music and books. That's how I've survived all these years. And I'm not just talking about any music. I'm talking about jazz music, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Sarah Vaughan. Music that was created by black people who were on the run. People who had been cut off from time, who had been pushed into corners, into graves while they were still breathing. People like me. And I'm not just talking about any books. I'm talking about the autobiography of Malcolm X, People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn, Anything We Love Can Be Saved by Alice Walker, Black Boy by Richard Wright, The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin, books like that. In the 28 years I've been in solitary confinement, I've probably read over 1,000 books, serious books. But it was James Baldwin who really penetrated me and kind of put me on the path. Richard Wright, too, has had a huge impact. In fact, my literacy project, Native Sons, is named in homage of him. But, reading The Fire Next Time, this little slice of a book, it's not that big. It's probably 100 pages or so. This book just really had a profound impact on my mentality. And, reading that and thinking about some home to understand why it was once a crime punishable by death for black people to learn how to read. Just think about that for a second. I'm going to take your life if you try to educate yourself. That's heavy, right? Here I am sitting in the cell on death row doing the very thing that many of my ancestors were killed for doing, just reading, studying. This past, the Negro's past, of rope, fire, torture, castration, infanticide, rape, death, and humiliation. Fear by day and night, fear as deep as the marrow of the bone, rage, hatred, and murder. Hatred for white men so deep that it often turned against him and his own and made all love, all trust, all joy impossible. This past, this endless struggle to achieve and reveal and confirm a human identity, human authority. It contains for all this horror something very beautiful. I do not mean to be sentimental about suffering. But people who cannot suffer can never grow up, can never discover who they are. That's James Baldwin. People who cannot suffer can never grow up, can never discover who they are. Well, okay then. I'm suffering. I want to grow up. I want to discover who I am. I remember thinking these words to myself when I first came to death row and I first discovered this book. In fact, I immediately set about learning this past, the Negro's past, and it was horrifying. Learning about the rope, about the fire, and what that meant. I never heard of the word castration. Never encountered the word infanticide. Terrifying. And I remember wondering, why hadn't I been taught any of this stuff in school? About the rope, about the fire, about the torture. I mean, if not knowing your history means it will repeat itself, then these things are very important to know, right? I mean, it's sad to say, but I had to come to prison to get a real education, to learn what it means to be free, what it means to be a human being. A few years ago, I was on a visit with a college professor who was interviewing me for an article he was writing. And I told him the same thing I'm telling you.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
I told him that it's sad, man, that I had to come to prison to get an education, to learn, what it means to be a human being. And he looked at me with a smile in his eyes, as if I had confirmed something he already knew and believed. So coming to prison was a good thing, he asked me, somewhat triumphantly, as if these good people were somehow doing me a favor by keeping me in a cell for 23 hours a day. And that's exactly the kind of lie slave masters used to tell themselves in order to justify the brutality they inflicted on their slaves. They said they were civilizing them. But I told my friend he had misunderstood me. I wasn't saying that I was glad I came to prison. I was trying to tell him that I was already in prison before I arrived here. I was in a mental prison, which in many ways is worse than being in a physical one. But I got lucky. I was blessed. When I came here, I met and was mentored by some very remarkable men. And they taught me the meaning of freedom. They helped open my eyes. But at first, when that first happened, when I first started pulling the wool from my eyes, and the light started to penetrate me, it was a tremendous amount of shame that came with finally being able to see what I'd done to myself, what I'd done to my life. James Baldwin was saying, men must pay for what they do. Not for who they are, but for what they allow themselves to become. And I paid tremendously. For a long time, beginning when I was in my early teens, I was totally and fully committed to playing the role of a criminal. With a group of older boys from the neighborhood, I went joyriding one day in a stolen vehicle a few months after my 13th birthday. And after we were called, all of us were brought before one of the meanest judges in the juvenile justice department in Cleveland. Judge Leotis Harris was his name. I'll never forget it. This was a notorious judge, was known for doling out harsh sentences, especially to those who were repeat offenders. Lucky for me, it was my first time ever getting into any real trouble, any serious trouble. And Judge Harris, to his credit, took note of this and gave my parents the option to either take me home or he'd deal with me himself. I was so happy and relieved when I heard him say that. With my parents standing behind me, I was the last one in a long line of co-defendants, about 6 of us all together. One by one, he had given each of these individuals a harsh sentence. And somehow, against all expectation, I had been snatched from the jaws of my greatest fear. Or so I thought. After a brief pause, my stepfather cleared his throat and told Judge Harris to do with me what he will. Take him, he said. All of a sudden, I was hanging up.
You have 1 minute remaining.
All of a sudden, I was hanging upside down over a precipice. That's what it felt like. Like the rug had been snatched from under me. Even Judge Harris himself seemed shocked. He looked at me and hunched his shoulders as to say, well, I tried. But now with his hands tied, he sentenced me to 6 months, and off I went. This was the event that changed the trajectory of my life. I'm absolutely convinced of it. I mean, you wouldn't think that 6 months away from home could cause irrevocable damage. But time is different when you are a kid. And 6 months felt like a lifetime to me. By the time I made it back home, I was forever changed. And that's the thing I want people to understand about these places. They don't make you better, they make you worse. Everything
Thank you for using GTL.
Thank you for your patience, everyone. We will get Keith back on momentarily to complete his thought. And again, as you listen, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. I will keep an eye on them, and there will be a moment later on for you to ask if you're comfortable. If not, I will designate someone else, if not myself, to ask your question on behalf of you if you aren't. But there will be an opportunity later, so feel free to share any remarks or questions via the chat.
Go ahead.
I was saying that everything I learned about being a criminal, I learned in those 6 months I was sent away to that juvenile facility. It was as though I had been sent to some kind of training academy for deviants. Everything, even the smallest thing, was against the rules, which meant I had to learn how to live without my dignity, how to swing around on my stomach like a snake. And it was too emotionally draining to always feel shameful. So eventually, if you wanted to survive, you had to learn how to let go of your conscience. But even then, I was a slow learner. For some guys, the elite among us, it took only 3 months to learn the ropes, how to lie with a straight face, how to regulate the nervous system. These guys were promptly rewarded with an early release. Me, I had to do the full 6 months. And I'm proud, to say I went kicking and screaming, trying to hold on to myself.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Still, by the end of my 6 months, the transformation was complete. I was a criminal. And what I'm talking about here, I'm talking about self-concept. I came into that situation viewing myself in one way, and I left viewing myself in a totally different way. As we all know, self-concept is destiny. By the time I was 14, I was buying and selling large amounts of marijuana. By the time I was 15, I was living on my own in an apartment building you see on the screen there. 3rd floor to the left. It was here that I nearly lost my life. In one of the most dangerous, poverty-stricken areas in the city. I was driving around in a Mercedes-Benz, wearing a Rolex watch, with a pocket full of money. Here's a photo of me as a 15-year-old with my gold chain and Rolex watch, wearing a sombrero given to me as a birthday gift. This is right before I left home for good. Probably one of the last carefree moments of my life. I was already lost, but I didn't fully know that yet. And my ignorance, as they say, allowed me to feel a sense of bliss. Look at him. Somebody would have told me about all the pain I was about to experience. I wouldn't have believed them. As all young people are, I thought I was invincible. Now when I look at this picture, it's just the saddest thing in the world to me. Because I now know that deep down inside, I was just a frightened little boy pretending to be older than I actually was or knew how to be. If you look in the background, you'll notice a bunch of trophies I won while playing starting quarterback on a championship football team. St. Timothy All-Stars. At one time in my life, those trophies meant everything to me. They served as a constant reminder that with hard work and effort, the best possible things were possible. I dreamed of one day playing professional football in the NFL. And believe it or not, one of the little boys who played on that team with me, a guy named Desmond Howard, actually made it to the NFL. I'll tell you a little bit about him later.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
As I said, I lost track of myself, of my real hopes and dreams, and got caught up in a nightmare. One day, a few years after this picture was taken, a group of guys kicked my door down, intent on robbing me. Bullets were exchanged. I shot one of the robbers twice in the chest and was myself shot twice in the legs. We lay side by side in an emergency room together, this person and I. In fact, I heard the doctors when they pronounced him dead, which meant that my life too had come to an end. At least my life as I knew it then. This was in 1988, the height of the cocaine epidemic, just as mass incarceration was getting underway. I went from having what I believed was everything to having nothing. It felt like my life was over. Without all my possessions to prop me up, I was just a scared little boy for real now. Just 19 years old, surrounded by grown men whose arms were bigger than my whole body. No shit. I believe I weighed around 167 pounds at the time when I first arrived in this world. World where rape is rampant, where violence is the official language. And yeah, it was frightening. The first thing I was given upon arrival was a knife and a carton of cigarettes to barter with. Here, take this. Was the only words that were said when these things were shoved into my hand. Gifts given to me by a friend, somebody I knew when I was on the street. I hid the knife and joined the boxing team. I didn't believe I had what it took to stab somebody, and in my whole 32 years of being here, I haven't had to do so. At least not yet. But being in prison, being in this violent environment, I was smart enough to know that I needed to learn how to fight, how to protect myself.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
I wish I could say that it was some kind of forethought strategy on my part, but it really wasn't. It was just out of survival, out of instinct. And joining the boxing team ultimately decreased the amount of altercations I had. I found that it was easier to fight one person in front of 1,000 prisoners than to have to worry about fighting each and every day. Pretty soon, drawing on the discipline I learned from playing football, I won the light heavyweight championship, which for various reasons was a pretty big deal to me. Everything I thought I was had been stripped away. And now I was rebuilding myself with things that could not be taken. My trainer, whose name was Asu, was the first real father I had. He taught me everything he knew about the ring and by extension, everything he knew about life. You see, people think boxing is a physical sport, but it's mostly mental. First thing is you learn all these different combinations of punches and drill them down into your memory bank. And then you get in tip-top shape, and your brain will do the rest. Asu taught me that. More important than everything, he taught me how to breathe, how to clear the way so my sanity over all these years of being in solitary confinement, breathing. Another father figure whose name was Diane encouraged me to go back to school and get my education, which I did. I got my GED and enrolled in the college program. So slowly but surely, I was finding my way back to myself, to my real self. Self that I had before I traded everything in for a Rolex and a Mercedes-Benz. For the first time in a long time, I felt peace from within, and it was glorious. I still had a long way to go, and I knew that. But I had crawled out of a dark hole and was standing on solid ground again, with nothing propping me up but the personal investments I made in myself. And I tell you all these things in order to give you a sense of why I couldn't accept the plea bargain when I was presented with such from the state. As you all are aware, a riot occurred within the prison. Quite a few people lost their lives. 9 prisoners and 1 guard were killed. I just so happened to be assigned to the part where alleged snitches were housed and ultimately murdered. Witnesses who were coached by the state claimed to have seen me participate in these murders. They lied. The witness statements that were withheld from me during trial and have since been recovered, I can prove that the case the state brought against me was deeply flawed and based solely on the tainted testimony of informants who, in some instances, themselves had blood on their hands. I can prove that. I even have a statement by an actual perpetrator who admitted to killing someone for whom I was sentenced to death. I shouldn't even be on death row. I'm innocent. I'm here because I refuse.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
I'm here because I refuse to take a deal, because I refuse to turn my back on myself, as I done when I was a 13-year-old kid. And to keep it 100% real, they never expected that I would actually do a trial. And why would I? Innocent, poor people plead guilty to crimes they didn't do all the time. In point of fact, over 90% of the people behind bars are here as a result of a plea bargain. That's real talk. And this no matter if they are guilty or not. And that's how the system works if you are poor. You make choices based on what you perceive the best option to be, notwithstanding your guilt or innocence. When they approached me about taking the deal, they had a copy of my file on hand. Every wrong thing I'd ever done in my life. It says here you stole a pair of Levi jeans in 1981 from J.C. Penney's. That's my impersonation of a middle-aged white man. You dropped out of high school in the 10th grade, so on and so forth. They knew I'd already pled guilty to my original offense and gathered from that I would plead guilty again. Thing was, I was actually guilty of the original offense. And pleading guilty because it was a way for me to accept responsibility for my actions. I took somebody's life. Still, I never assumed or believed that my life was not worthless because of this, to the point that some strange white man could stroll in off the street and convince me to give up my life for nothing. They underestimated me. Assumed I was still the same person I was when I first arrived here, still broken and confused. They were wrong, and I told them as much. You wrong about me. I'll never plead guilty to this. And I meant that. I wrote a book called Condemned, in which I set forth the events that followed my refusal to plead guilty. I write about the unique experience of the trial process. Unique because, as I said, not many people have had the honor of a jury trial. I mean, it's really something. It's not at all like what you see on TV, on shows like Lord.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
It's nothing like that. At one point during my trial, a witness took the stand and claimed that the FBI implanted microscopic microchips in his brain. And the whole courtroom, including myself, erupted in laughter. I mean, the whole scene was so surreal. A serious comedy It's the only way I can accurately describe it. And of course, when all was said and done, the joke was on me. To set the stage, my case.
You have 1 minute remaining.
To set the stage, my case had been moved to an all-white city called Irwin, Ohio, which I never heard of back then. Naturally, all-white jury was empaneled, and things went downhill from there. It didn't even have to pretend to be professional. Went through my attorneys, I requested discovery. They flat out refused, even though they're bound by law to turn over all favorable or exculpatory evidence to defense. As a compromise, they supplied me with a list of names and a list of disconnected random excerpts that may or may not have pertained to my case. And then, in a heartfelt attempt to appear judicial, they offered us additional funds to hire an investigator to search for phantom needles and phantom haystacks. Oh, I was so mad. Oh, man.
Thank you for using GTL.
Thank you for your patience while we get Keith back on the phone. I'll drop a couple links in the one, particularly for his book, Condemned, to support his campaign.
Yeah. As I was saying, I was so mad. You know, I grew up in the ghetto, and I know what 3-card modeling looked like. I know the shell game, all that. I know it. I grew up around it. I know what it feels like when somebody is tricking me, trying to pull one over on me. That's one of the advantages of growing up where I grew up. And so when I was in the courtroom, I felt the same thing. And it was the same game. I said, as a compromise, they gave me this manufactured list with a group of random names and some excerpts on another column as if it was the Sunday newspaper. Here I had traveled all this way through all this hell to see the wizard, to see justice, only to find out that the wizard was an old white man pulling levers. Now, one attorney I've spoken to since that time has told me they've ever seen anything like it, and I believe it. So the courtroom remained virtually empty throughout the entire trial. When the day of sentencing arrived, it was standing room only. I'd never seen so many white people in one room at one time in my...
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
That was frightening. Obviously, I didn't have a camera with me to take a picture, but here's how I remember it. Riding towards the end of the 19th century, not long before this picture was taken, Emil Durkheim suggested that crime performed a needed service to society by drawing people together. He wrote, and I quote, "When the deviant individual violates rules of conduct which the rest of the community hold in high respect, and when these people come together to express their outrage over the offense and to bear witness against the offender, they develop a tighter bond of solidarity than existed earlier." Now, never mind the fact that I'm innocent and that the only crime that was committed was perpetrated against me. The fact that I was found guilty and sentenced to death nevertheless served to bring together a community. And that, at the end of the day, is why so many black people are killed in this country. I mean, I'm sure not a lot of people would admit it. But what we're looking at when we see a George Floyd murdered in broad daylight is ritual. Since his death, many more black men have been murdered by the police. In his book, The Crime of Punishment, Carl Meninger wrote, the inescapable conclusion is that society secretly wants crime, needs crime, and gains definite satisfactions from the mishandling of it. But mishandling sounds a little too mild a word for the extrajudicial murders we've seen over the past few months, but okay, let's call it that. Let's look at this picture again. Let's look at it real closely, though. Don't these people look satisfied to you? I mean, who knows what, if anything, the two black men did, but real or imagined, I'm willing to bet that it wouldn't have made a difference. Just as it didn't make a difference whether I was guilty or not. Not one person came to hear a shred of evidence. Even more disheartening in my case is that it has passed through every level of the judiciary, and not one judge has paused to consider the...
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Now, one judge has paused to consider the glaring gaps in the narrative. And a large part of the reason is that I've been hampered by subpar legal representation. To date, not one court has seen or ruled on the newly discovered evidence that has been uncovered since my trial. This is why I'm working so hard to acquire new representation, in hopes that once the full scope of the deprivations I've been through, I'll finally receive the relief I so desperately need and deserve. That's why I'm doing all this. I've been issued an execution date, which has been set for 16th November 2023, a little over 2 years from now, so not a lot of time. In 2014, the Ohio Supreme Court convened a task force to study capital punishment paid with taxpayer money here in Ohio, and instructed the task force to make recommendations that would make the administering of the death penalty more equitable. One of those recommendations centered around jailhouse informants. And it was determined that no one should be indicted, let alone sentenced to death, based solely on their uncorroborated testimonies. The only exception to this proposed rule would be an actual confession from the accused. Now listen to this. This is what I've been going through for the past, 10 years. These good people here at the prison where I'm housed have supplied several prisoners around me with recording devices to see if they can coax a confession out of me. That's how I live my life. I'm a human being. As a human being, I need to socialize with other human beings. But these people supply these guys with recordings so I can't even talk to anybody. I can't even share my books, my library, and I have one of the vastest libraries in the state of Ohio. I can't even associate with people. And what I'm trying to describe here in brief is the remnants of a broken system. I'm here on the inside, in the belly of this beast. And I'm telling you what I see, what I know. The people who profit from the way things are not going to wake up tomorrow and decide to do things differently. That's not how it works. And let me say this, and then I'll open it up for some questions. It's not within our power to change these people or even to change this system. And that's just a simple truth, something I had to find out the hard way. But the good news, and what I really want you to hear me on, is that we don't have to change them. We don't have to change this system. All we have to do is change ourselves. If we can do that, then everything must change. You know, Richard Wright's great insight, one that he came to late in life, is that what makes us human is the fact that we belong to this thing called humanity. And what he came to understand and articulated so beautifully is that for better or worse, we are caught up in each other's lives. If we cannot find our way to a human path, he wrote, and inform our conduct with a deeper sense of life, then all of us, black as well as white, are going down the same drain. Ponder that. Think about that. And I say just one more thing. I said I mentioned my childhood friend Desmond Howard, the little boy who stood next to me on the football field 40 years ago, and who went on to achieve great things in his life. He won the Heisman Trophy playing for...
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
He won the Heisman Trophy playing for Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines. You know, I lost track with Desmond. We went separate ways when we was around 12, 13 years old. Hadn't seen him, hadn't heard about him. I'm sure he hadn't heard about me. I was in prison in 1989, 1990. I was sitting on the bed and watching a football game. I was watching the Wolverines play somebody, and my cellmate said, "Yeah, man, I can't wait to see what Desmond Howard do." I had no idea he was playing for Michigan. Had no idea he was in the running for the Heisman. I mean, it blew my mind. It confirmed for me, like, damn, I wasted my life. That's how I felt when I saw that. And I wasn't angry at Desmond. I was happy for him. I still am. But I know right now it's a little young guy out there right now confused about who he is. And these people are about to get their hands on him. And they're about to change him. Because we talk about a justice system, a legal system. It's none of that. It's a digestive system. That's what this is. It takes people and turns them into shit. That's what this place is designed to do. You know, a few days ago, Desmond reached out to me. He called me on the telephone. He heard about my situation. We talked for about an hour, laughing and reminiscing about our days playing football together. I mean, we had a hell of a team. And we talked about that. We talked about his dad. We talked about his kids. You know, he's living a good life. And the most beautiful thing in the conversation is that he's still Desmond. Beautiful brother. And he knew me before I lost myself. And he was just calling to let me know that I mattered. Ain't that sweet? It's just another example of how these superficial distinctions, you know, how shallow they are. White, black, this, that. You know, none of that means anything next to our shared humanity. And that's the thing that he reminded me of. I mean, I already knew it, but it was good that he knew it too. Even with his millions and millions of dollars, his mansion, or whatever else, he was just still Desmond. And that made my heart so glad, so glad. So yeah, I'm gonna end on that note because I know you all have some questions, and I want to answer those if I can. Yeah, so I'll turn it over to you, Amy, and you can arrange the question. I don't know how much time we have left on this particular call, or whether or not you would like me to just call back with a fresh 15. You think that'd be better?
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
I think that's the 5-minute buzzer there. So why don't you go ahead and do one
Okay.
question?
Yeah. Well, let's try to get at least a couple of them out the way if we can.
Hi, Keith. This
So
is
James.
Camille Higgins, one of the coordinators from the DePaul Steans Center. For one, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, for one, recounting events of your life, giving history lessons in others, and really just giving us the full spectrum of, your experience and the experience of so many others who do not have this, opportunity to speak to such a large, group of the public and share those sentiments. So we do have a couple questions already sent ahead of time that we can get through, as well as getting through others. But yeah, just let me know, Amy, if we need to stop and start over. So maybe
You have 1 minute remaining.
Oh, that's a 1 minute thing.
Yes.
So let me call right back, and then we'll start fresh. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And just,
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
and just to let everyone know,
Thank you for using GTL.
if you didn't see my message in the chat, although this is slated to close at 3:30, this room can remain open. So if you do have the time, feel free to stick around. We'll get through a couple questions and actually have a couple of announcements. So just to let you know, we'll get through these questions, but there isn't a hard, close for the Zoom. We will be able to go beyond 3:30 if you may. So we'd like for you to stick around. As soon as Keith is back, we will begin with our first question, which I will transition over to Grace, one of the facilitators and students from Students Against Incarceration, to ask. Following Grace will be James.
Keith.
Okay.
This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using GTL.
Okay, go ahead, Grace.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, thank you. I first want to say thank you so much, Keith, for your words and telling your story and letting us into a lot of parts of your life. We really appreciate it and are excited to support you in any way we can. Our first question for you comes from one of your short essays that we found on your website, Resist. You speak of dismantling all roots of an oppressive and racist system. How important do you think it is to tear down symbols that remind us of the systemic racism and cruelty we find rooted in our everyday society? For example, the taking down of the Christopher Columbus statue here in Chicago and other symbols that you include in your essay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It all depends on what kind of future we want, right? I mean, as if often proclaimed, we want a future based on equality and justice, and yeah, it becomes vitally important that we dismantle the relics of the past, because the whole point of erecting certain images and projecting them into the future is to keep things as they are. Statue Christopher Columbus isn't centered solely around commemorating his life as an individual. That's the game that they play. It's about commemorating the ideals for which he dedicated his life. And it's about holding those ideals up as something worthy of veneration and imitation. Ultimately, the purpose of all symbols is to communicate with the collective.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
And that's why the symbols are so kind of dangerous, because they're insidious. You don't really think about them. And I know not a lot of people share this belief, because here in this country, we either believe one thing and that's it. We don't really leave our mind open for other streams of thought. But I'm of the belief that there's a part inside of us, an old ancient part, that existed since the beginning of time. that walked this earth when the Egyptians was here, that walked through the Civil War, through the American War, through the Spanish War. And I think that's what makes up the collective unconscious. And I think the purpose of these symbols is to speak to that. You, in your present state, in your present incarnation, might not have any awareness of these things, but it's a part of you that does. I mean, on the surface, all these things seem harmless. There's always somebody there to assure us that they exist in remembrance of someone's heritage or history, as if heritage and history exist in a vacuum, right? What history? You mean the rape and murder and brutalization of black people? Is that the heritage you want to propagate? Well, as a black person, as a Native American, as the proposed victim of this ongoing narrative, I must stand up and say, no, absolutely not. A statue of Christopher Columbus represents rape, murder, and domination. And I don't really have a problem with Christopher Columbus. He lived. He did what he thought, and his understanding was the right thing to do. He wasn't an explorer, though. He was a pirate. If you say he was a pirate, maybe he would be more widely accepted, because he did what pirates do. He was one of the original gangsters. Was an explorer. When he stumbled on the Canary Islands and the Arawak Indians came out to greet him bearing gifts, the first thing he wrote in his diary, and I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that. I don't hear a lot of people talk about that, but Christopher Columbus kept notes.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
You know, he kept notes. He was proud of himself. He said, with 50 men, I can subjugate this whole island. That's the lens through which he saw life. That's something to be dominated, something to be conquered. And anybody who wants to hold him up as a hero is simultaneously telling you that they see life through the same lens. So you tear it all down. But you got to understand that just because you remove a statue doesn't mean that the statue has been removed from people's hearts and minds. And see, that's the thing that you got to understand. And you have to be vigilant. You got to understand that it's hate, that's the evil that walk on this planet. And you have to learn how to protect yourself from that evil, from those insidious thoughts that's always trying to enter your mind. You got to learn how to protect your mind, how to protect your soul. That's important, because you can't always control what these people allow, because that's their business, right? What they do. We only control what we do, and part of what we do is protect ourselves at all times. That's important, yeah.
Thank you, Keith. James, would you mind asking your question?
Hi, Keith. This is James from Students Against Incarceration here at DePaul. Thank you so much again for sharing your story and sharing your time with us today. My question is, James Baldwin says that hatred, which could destroy so much, never failed to destroy the man who hated. Could you elaborate more on the section in your book involving your wrongful extrication and torture by Lieutenant Young and how you transformed that anger into resistance and strength for your cause?
Lieutenant Young, yeah. Yeah, I remember Lieutenant Young. He was a sad dude. You know, he's one of the many bullies I've encountered along the way. You know, when I first arrived here, James, I made it known that I was not going along with the program. I had already made up my mind that I was going to resist every step of the way. In fact, when I bus and they were about to escort me to my new cell, I stopped walking and made them drag me there. I write about that in my book. And the point, like I said, it was to tell them in no uncertain terms that this is how it's going to be. Get used to it. And I meant that. That was my attitude. And Lieutenant Young was someone who made it his mission to break me. He was going to make me submit. And we, for a few years, were locked in the battle of wills, he and I, which was a fight I slowly and surely recognized that I was losing. You know, at the time, I didn't know what a Pyrrhic victory was. that it was possible to win and lose at the same time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I derive great pleasure from telling Lieutenant Young to go fuck himself and see his face turn all red. But in doing that, I was also providing him with the justification to deprive me of visits with my family, phone calls, and other things that helped me hold on to my humanity. So I was losing more than I was gaining, even though I was speaking my mind and being difficult. It took some time for me to figure it out. It took some time for me to absorb the magnitude of what I've been thrown into.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
It took certain people coming into my life. I referenced Snoop earlier. He was one of the biggest impacts in my life. When I first got here, I walked around. I was upset, James. I'm still upset because we're just talking about energy. And I didn't really know how to channel it, how to make it work for me. And I met Snoop and, other guys, and I learned how to meditate. And that helped me. But one thing Snoop said to me one time, he said, "Young blood, why are you so mad?" I said, "Well, I'm on death row for something I didn't do, man. What the fuck you mean, He said, "Well, young blood, you want to be technical. You're on this planet for something you didn't do. Your mother and father had sex, not you." He said, "You mad about that?" He said, "Because it's something you can do." He said, "You don't have to be here." And he was right about that. Like, I don't have to be here. But if I'm going to be here, then I have to try to figure out a way to put my best foot forward. And on the path that I was on, but trying to match wits with Lieutenant Young, I was dragging myself down. Because this was a small person I was dealing with. And it took me some time, because my ego was involved. I had to grow up, as James Baldwin said. I had to discover myself. And it took some time. But I'm all grown up now, And wherever Lieutenant Young is, or, if he's still on this planet, yeah. Peace go with you, brother. Yeah.
Thank you. We have another question from one of the participants in the audience. You can go ahead with your question now.
Hi, Mr. LaMar. My name's Jonathan Handrup. I'm a program manager here at the Steans Center at DePaul. And I just want to say how incredibly honored and privileged I feel, and I think we all feel, that you're sharing this space and spending some time with us this afternoon. And I also just want to echo what Grace shared earlier, that we're also just so excited to get involved and support you in any way we can. And I just have a couple questions, I guess, about education. And I'm wondering if you can maybe describe the role education has played in your time incarcerated, and how important have your studies been to fighting the wrongful convictions against you, and what does having your GED mean to you amidst like all the other systems working against you?
Thanks. Education is an interesting concept. I mean, it means different things to different people, right? I mean, my understanding of education derives from the root word educe, which means to bring forth that which is already there. Snoop taught me that as well. He said our principal, goal as men should be to simply become who we are. To figure out what matters to us, to our soul, and be that. In the ancient world, in the interest of the pyramids, it said, know thyself. And in the new world, they kind of modified that and said, be yourself. But I think we have to know ourselves and be ourselves. And I think when you combine those things together, that, to me, is what education is. Who you are, how you feel, where you're going, and you go there. Once I was able to accomplish that, everything, kind of fell in place for me. because I was fighting myself a lot, the hurdles in my own path, because I didn't know how to elevate myself, how to elevate my energy. I didn't know how to concentrate. I didn't know how to slow down, how not to be mad, how not to be afraid. I had to learn that stuff. I had to learn all these things. So for me, for mine, there's no, real difference, between having a GED or a PhD. I mean, the question is still the same. Who are you? That's the determining factor.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
I mean, don't get me wrong, having a PhD is great. It requires a lot of work. I have a friend who's going for her PhD in a few weeks, and I hope she get it. But more important than that is, what kind of person are you? Because having a PhD is like having, a lot of money, or more money than the average person. That don't really mean anything. Not for me, it don't, because I had those things, but I didn't have myself, and that meant I didn't really have anything, and I had to find that out the hard way. You got to learn who you are. That's the first education that you should try to, obtain, and then from there you just build on top of it. But that has to be the foundation. But yeah, I don't take any pride in having a GED. That's
You have 1 minute remaining.
That's the path that's set out. That's the requirements that these people put in front of us, and to have us jumping through these loops. I'm smarter than probably 90% of the people in this prison, the people who put me in this cell. And I know that. GED don't mean shit. It's a tool. It's a vehicle. And about the vehicle, it's about who behind the wheel. That's what matters. And it's just about staying in possession of your heart and your mind. That's what it's about. That's the education that you really got to put stock into. That's the education that can't be taken away from you. That's the education that's going to form you. All the stuff that you do. What you going to do with that PhD? That's what's up. It's about to cut off, so I'll call right back. Probably have time for another call, okay?
Hey, Keith.
Yeah.
Because we got a late start.
Thank you for using GTL.
Okay, well, can you all hear me okay?
Yes, Amy, go ahead with your announcement.
Okay, so since we kind of got to a late start, and because some people may need to leave, we're going to do the ways that you might be able to get involved if you're interested, and then we'll go back to questions if that's okay with you, Kalia. Does that sound all right?
Yes,
We
go
just
ahead.
don't want anybody to miss that. And then there was also, okay, the books are being put in the, Malcolm X was the other one. We got our books in the chat. Someone was asking that. Okay, so if you are, having a question mark, which often goes on in people's minds about what can I do to get involved. I'm Amy, by the way. I'm with the Campaign for Justice for Keith LaMar, and he's calling. So just 1 second. I'm back. And Keith is back with us too. So real quick, I'm gonna go over these things, and the links will be put in the chat for you as well. But if you're wondering, what can I do? That's often a question that comes up. There are a number of things listed here on the screen that are there for you. One of the most pressing things you heard Keith talk about is his need to fight this thing and to appeal to attorneys who can really try to get him back into court these last couple of years before his execution date is upon us. So one of the most important things comes in the way of donation. So if that's something you're able to do, please consider making that the priority. We have some other things there, of course, that are for free to do, easy things. Sharing the link to his website, telling people about this event
This
you
call
heard
is
today.
originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Anything you can do to kind of help spread the word, we will be so grateful for that. We'd love for you to add your name to the email database on his website so that as things come up in his situation, we could reach out to you. I know Kali already shared the link to the book Condemned. It's really Keith telling the story really in a very clear and concise way with some of those things that he just alluded to today. That's the best way to talk about his story, is just to read Condemned. The profits, the money we are selling this for is going directly back to that fight for him, for his freedom and the justice for him. So also we have some things in the merch store. I have that at the very bottom here, like the mugs. These are just conversation starters. I'm wearing the t-shirt today. Probably about 4 or 5 different people ask me, hey, what's that shirt about? So things like that, all of it. Here's like, the t-shirt. We have hoodies. So check out the website and check out these things. There's a documentary that's about 35 minutes long. And that is an easy way to kind of tell the story to somebody who maybe doesn't have the time to read the book. So we just invite you to follow. The links are going to be pasted here in the chat for you. And I'm going to end my comments there and let you talk again, Keith. We'll get back to the questions. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, yeah.
Thank you, Amy, for that announcement. Just to let everyone
If they
know.
have more questions, that's cool. But I definitely just want to be sure to thank each and every one of them for just providing a space and the opportunity for me to share my story. They say, expressing their gratitude, but it's me who, is grateful. I'm truly grateful for the opportunity just to get out of here and have a human exchange with people who are not wearing wires, not trying to coax a confession or trying to, bury me, deeper than I already am in this madness. So yeah, it's been a blessing for me as well, definitely.
And thank you so much, Keith. If you, are able, and we definitely have more questions. We're going to steal you.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah.
We're going to steal you for a little bit longer. And for everyone else, we'll post this information and follow up. So feel free. This will be shared later with a couple of other announcements. So another question coming from another member from the audience. Please announce yourself before asking your question.
Hello, Keith. My name is Ruben. I have the privilege of being a team member of Kalia's Steans Center for Community-Based Service Learning.
I can't hear you that good.
Hello, like coming through.
It sounds a bit far. We can hear you vaguely. It sounds a bit far away.
All right, I'll try to speak up. Hi, Keith. My name is Ruben. I'm a team member of Kalia's at the Steans Center, and I wanted to thank you for holding the space with us and sharing your life and your soul force with us. We have been confronted at DePaul with the question of our relationship to the police and the systems of policing. And I wondered.
He's breaking up pretty bad.
Yeah, let's cut my video. Here we go. Let me shut my video off. Maybe that'll help.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Keith. My internet's not that great right now. But I wanted to ask, for those of us that are on the outside that are trying to support incarcerated communities that are struggling against the death penalty, struggling against solitary confinement, struggling against institutions like police, what more can we be doing to support, to help?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think the answer depends on who you are. It all depends on that. Everything comes back to that. Who are you? How much of yourself are you willing to give to life? But that's what it's really about. It's not just about me. I mean, you're not doing this just for me. You're doing this for yourself as well. And, that's one of the things that I had to learn. I'm on death row. That's right. That's true. That's a reality. But that still doesn't remove me from the obligation to do everything that I can do to live up to my potential. And, I read with high school students every week. And it's the greatest part of my time. We're reading these difficult books and we're talking about these difficult topics. And, that's how I spend my time. And it comes back to me. So it's just a matter about how much of your time that you're willing to give. And you have to understand that whatever you put out, you get back. So it's not even really, me being altruistic, me being some kind of humanitarian. I just know how the universe works. You put out good, good come back to you. You put out a lot of good come back to you. If you help somebody, and as I mentioned in my remarks, I took somebody's life. So what I have to do, based on my personal understanding of the world, the energy, some people call it karma, but what I have to do, I have to save somebody's life. So I go into dark places and use the light I've generated over these years and try to share it with people who might not be able to see their way through. That's what I do. I do that because I have to. My life is on the line. But see, what we don't realize, over this past year, just 1 year, over 600,000 people left this planet. And you probably could, be certain that at least 99% of those people didn't think they were going to die. Probably had plans for next year, weddings, birthdays, whatever the case may be. But the fact of the matter is that we don't know how long we're going to be on this planet. We only have a small amount of time to do something righteous with our lives. And that's what I understand because I'm on death row. But if you understand that with all the options you have, man, what can you do? I'm limited in what I can do. But I'm doing everything I can do. I haven't been asleep in 2 days. So that's how much I want to remain on this planet. And it's more than just what you say. It's what you do. So that's what, you just got to, question yourself. You want to put in a little, you get back a little. Want to put in a lot, you get back a lot. This organization's already set up, so it ain't like you have to start from scratch at anything. There's people already digging holes, doing the work. Call them, join them, get involved. That's really all there is to it. The thing that y'all doing right now. Multiply it, expand it. And it all will come back to you. And that's how we change the world, by changing ourselves. The person I was when I was selling drugs, I would have never read books with some high school students. Fuck out of here. But I had to change, though. I had to make a transition, and I did. And so, I intend to just stay on that path, because this is, it's worthwhile, Yeah, so, just decide your investment and make it. Step out there, and, you won't be disappointed. Yeah.
Thank you, Keith. And we have possibly one final question. The next person we can ask now. And if you stop, we'll hold the question till you get back on.
Oh, no.
Hi, Keith. My name is Angelica Chesley, and I work at the Steans Center as well. And I just wanted to thank you so much for sharing your story. And my question that I have for you is—
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
What do you want to see happen to our legal system in this country in order to provide a more just and supportive society for all people?
Yeah. Well, we have to first start calling it what it is. It's not. I understand the distinction between the justice system and legal system, but really, if you're on the inside, it's a digestive system. This polarizes people. But to your point, yeah, we have to get involved. It's not like I was telling the guy before you. We don't have to start from scratch. There's already people out here doing the heavy lifting. Y'all part of those people. But guys in here, they lack resources. So, more outreach, coming into these places and, making guys feel or know that they're not in the struggle by themselves, that helps, morale-wise, spiritually speaking, But I'm especially concerned for young people in juvenile facilities. more so than I am for myself and people who are in this place with me, difficult as it is. I mean, we're grown men by now. I'm talking about 13, 14, 15-year-old kids. You got to get into those places. There shouldn't even be facilities for kids like that. I mean, it's a scientific fact that your brain is not even really, what it will be if you have, natural development or whatever the case may be. Your prefrontal cortex, it's not even fully developed till you're 26. So I'm talking about kids, really kids, and they just being, as I was, the damage that's being done to them, and then the damage that they do in their own communities, killing each other and all that. I mean, I got caught up in that. And I just wish that somebody, I have a lot of people in my life right now, doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, people with PhDs, left and right. But I got an execution date. If these people had their way, I'm leaving this planet in a little over 2 years from now. I mean, I'm going to fight them. I'm going to do everything I can. But when I needed this help was when I was 13. Because I could have done something meaningful, powerful with my life. I mean, everything that you heard me say, all the things that I've said I've done those things. And the reflection of my comments is a reflection of that investment that I've made. But this is with worn out tools I did this. I'm working on a caveman level, rubber sticks together, basically. I don't have access to the internet. I don't have all this, technology and all this other stuff, and I don't have the resources that a lot of people, privileged people have. So yeah, that's what I want. I want to be a part of something, that's helping young people in these dark places, Because I know, when I was in one of those places, I still had a whole lot of light in me. And I turned it over, to the streets. Wasted my potential, squandered my time. So yeah, that's what I will hope to happen in this system that we, in this country that we live in, that, more compassion to show towards young people, particularly young Black people, poor people. Because they've been thrown away before they even have an opportunity to realize who they are, what their worth is. They're being put in the garbage can. That's sad, man. We should all be.
You have 1 minute remaining.
We should all be pissed about that. What they're doing to our kids. We should be upset. Yeah.
Thank you so much to everyone who asked those very thoughtful, engaging questions. Thank you so much, Keith, for sticking around with us. And again, just recounting events, sharing this knowledge. And
yeah, I'll call back.
Okay, we'll hold on.
All right, cool, yeah.
Thank you for using GTL.
Hey, Kalia.
Yes.
Real quick, this is Mary. Thank you, DePaul, for hosting this. And I just want to interrupt with a really quick announcement, a very exciting surprise. I'll let you all on the call know. And then when Keith gets back on, it's actually his birthday coming up on May 31st. Keith is turning 52. So when he gets back on the call, I hope he's not hearing this right now. When he gets back on the call, we're going to invite all the participants to unmute yourself, and we'll go ahead and sing happy birthday to Keith. Does that sound okay?
It definitely does. And if you feel comfortable coming off video so we can see your beautiful faces, we're going to try to get a quick screenshot to share with him later. Please come off the video now. We just really want to share this space and have something to send to him later so we can see our beautiful faces, people who are here, who are supporting.
Thank you for using GTL.
You're back, Keith?
Yeah, I'm back. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mary shared something with us. So if you would hold one moment, we have something to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Happy birthday, Keith.
Happy birthday,
Happy
birthday.
Say happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Keith.
Happy birthday, Keith.
Happy birthday, Keith.
Yeah, one of my friends' birthday is actually the day on the 21st. So happy birthday, Rachel. Yeah, thanks everybody. Yeah, that means a lot. 52 years old. Mm-hmm. I came into this place when I was 19. Can you believe that? 19 years old.
No.
52 years old. Yeah.
We want to sing to you. We're going to sing to you, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Here we go. Everyone on mute.
Yeah, all right. Let's try it.
Yeah, this will be the first time. I don't think it's ever been done. A virtual happy birthday.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, everyone.
Record it.
Okay, one.
Press out the CD.
Happy
birthday
to
you.
Happy
birthday
to you. Happy birthday,
I hear you, Rachel. I hear you, Amy. Amy, bring it on home, girl. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much. I got a big smile on my face. Like I say, I've been up for almost 2 days now. You should see me running around trying to get everything. I'm sitting here,
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
eyes half closed. Oh, that touched my heart. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate it.
You are very, very welcome, Keith. I think this is a part of the Guinness World Record, surprise. Over to say 35 people here saying you happy birthday, and we got some other surprises to send you later. So thank you so much and happy early birthday.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Khalil. Thanks a lot. And yeah, y'all doing some real important work there, so keep doing it. Keep doing it. And definitely if, y'all need to call on me sometime in the future, whatever, I'm there for it. So, we made a contact, and so, just reach out. I'll reach back, no doubt.
And thank you so much. We're going to actually share other ways. We've been sharing throughout the call, but we'll share it at the conclusion of the event, ways to reach out to you, reach out to the campaign team. We actually even got questions about people wanting to send things to you in the mail. So we'll kind of get all that information.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
We're going to send you pictures of our faces and some other things.
Yeah, that's good.
So that will be coming after the event. So
you all are in Chicago, right?
Correct. DePaul University. Yes, we're in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear a lot about Chicago.
We have people from across different time zones here, actually, though. But DePaul itself, we have people from England who just chimed into the chat. Let us know they're from England here.
Probably Luana. Hey, Luana.
So I want to thank you again to
Hey, Bumani. Hey, Bumani.
Hey. How you doing?
It's Luana.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Nice to hear you.
Yeah, good. Glad. Okay.
So we have people joining, and we'll definitely, before we close, give everyone a chance to kind of just, unmute and speak to you and share any, remarks as we close. But I just want to thank, the planning team, particularly Mary and Amy and everyone who supported for one to bring your story to life to us at the DePaul community. Thank the co-sponsors.
Yeah, we're pretty good after, we got the kinks out. So
yeah,
I hope nobody is kind of upset about that. It went pretty good. Under the circumstances, all this stuff is a miracle, really. It really is. Mm-hmm.
That it is, and no problem at all. We're not, even going to speak on that. We're here for you.
That's my whole life. That is,
Yeah, but we were definitely so appreciative. Thank you to Grace and James from the Students Against Incarceration for joining us, the Department of Political Science, and everyone who just, did their part to share and market this event. I'm so appreciative of you. And actually, my last surprise before we just come off mute and give you your flowers, as they say now, before we close, I was able to create what's called like a jam board. So we're going to share this with everyone here. And what that is based like a virtual poster board or sticky note. So everyone will be able to kind of post, different sticky notes here, words of encouragement, different remarks, thoughts from the event. I'll get that link out to you all, and we'll make sure that gets to you later.
Yeah. Make sure you send it to me.
The evaluation link that I posted in the chat. So we have a lot coming your way, in other words. But I do want to give a moment.
Okay, good.
Friends here, if you are friends of Bomani or Keith LaMar here, feel free to come off mute as we close. Again, thank you all so much for, sitting over time and just really sharing. And then everyone on the planning committee, if you stick around at the end, once everyone else drops out, we'll debrief briefly. But again, feel free to come off mute at this moment.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Feel free to come off mute and share any remarks as you exit the room now with Keith.
Hi, Keith. My name is Stacy Jones, and I went to junior high school with you. You and your brother, Tuck.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And
Stacey
you was
Johnson, yeah.
Stacy Jones, not Stacy Johnson, Stacy Jones, right, from Harvard.
Okay, all right.
Yes, and I always wonder what happened to you and Tut. And I was talking to Martine. I was talking to Pinky late last night, and she told me, and I had to go on there and find you. So I just want to say hi, and I'm gonna pray for you, and I'm gonna start talking to the people that helped grew up with us, so we can get some more help behind you.
Yeah, thanks so much for that.
You welcome.
I know Martine.
Right. Pinky.
Yeah, I know Martine. Pinky.
Yep.
Yeah. I think she lived on Beechwood, I think.
Yeah.
Around that way, maybe Road. Good. Thanks for reaching out to me. I appreciate it. Definitely.
Yeah.
Talking about Elliot.
No, we went to Baker together.
Oh, Baker.
Yeah.
Oh, on the west side. Oh,
yeah. Remember
Baker.
we got. I know. But, right. We got all bussed over there, and I met y'all at Baker.
Oh, I hated that. Yeah, I flunked out in 7th grade because I just couldn't. I didn't like that bus ride. I just didn't like it.
Right.
Yeah. But thanks for chiming in, reaching out, and yeah, definitely keep me in your prayers. I need them. Definitely.
Oh, I definitely will.
Yeah. I hope you and your family are doing good.
We are.
COVID and everything.
Good, and in spite of what you saying, I remember seeing you one time out at Vale's, and you was little sweet Keith to me.
Oh yeah. He was still in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still sweet Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found my way all the way back there, so I'm all the way myself again, and
that's good.
I'm so glad about that. Yeah, I'm glad about that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Stacy, for joining.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Oh, you're welcome.
No, we have another friend of family of Keith's in here. You can, I think the recorded message may have cut you off. Luana, if you want to say anything.
Oh, okay. Hi, Bomani. Luana again.
Oh, hey, Luana. Yeah.
Hey.
How you
Did
doing?
you get the recent? I'm okay.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Yeah, I got the videos, yeah.
What did you think? You like it?
Yeah, I definitely like it. I listened to a little bit on streaming. I was streaming music a week or so ago, and I was listening to it. Yeah. You got good taste.
Okay, I've sent you something else since then, so maybe you'll receive that in the next couple of days.
Okay, good. And I'll write you over the weekend. I've been swamped, but I'll write you over the weekend. Okay.
Oh, I'm sure you are, but don't worry. It's okay. You just prioritize.
Yeah. I'm gonna sleep good tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, you make sure you do. Take care, okay?
Okay, I'll be in touch with you soon, Luana. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Bye. Everyone else, feel free as you exit to come off mute and just say anything or say goodbye, say hello as you exit the room. Thank you so much again for joining us and sticking around. Really appreciative, and we will send all of the information to you all following this event. You will get an email at 4 p.m. from Eventbrite, but all the other screenshots, Jamboard, that'll be in another email that I'll make sure reaches you all again. So feel free to come off mute and just let him hear your voice and share this space with you as you exit.
Hi, Keith. My name is Sunny. I'm calling you from San Jose, California. And I wanted to tell you that I'm also supporting a young man in San Quentin prison who has a similar story to yours. And a group here just made a wonderful ebook from, he was part of a project called Solitary Gardens, where they made a garden in campus in UC Santa Cruz. So I will send this ebook to Amy so that she can share it with you.
Yeah.
I think you'd like
Yeah,
it.
she'll get it to me, yeah.
Yeah, his name is.
Yeah, send it to her. She'll send it to me, yeah.
Okay, his name is Timothy James Young, and you will recognize him. And
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Yeah,
So,
I'm gonna look up for
I don't know if you heard that, but
Amy, she'll get it to me.
I will, and I sent Tim your book, so he's got your story too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if they allow us to write, correspond with prisoners in California. I'm sure, I remember them having some kind of regulations around that. But yeah, tell them to send me a letter, drop me a line if he can.
Okay, will do. Take care.
Okay, cool. Okay, you too.
Sunny.
Pardon?
No, thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, Amy, I'll send you the ebook. I think you'll like it.
That sounds great. I put my email in the chat if you want to use that, or you can do it through Facebook or whatever, or however you reach me.
I'll get it again, yeah. Let's see. Info at Keith
It's
LaMar?
info@keithlamar.org. Yep.
Okay, great. I'll send it there.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. This has been great.
Thank you.
All right. So we're at the conclusion, right, Kalia?
Yes, if anyone wanted to say hello on their way out, just a brief hi, just share some sound. But we are at the conclusion. Thank you so much as you close. Thanks everyone so much for joining us.
Good night, Bomani. Thank
everyone.
Okay.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you so
Thanks a
much.
lot for listening to my story. And yeah, take the story with you and share it with people. You know, that's what's up. You know, that's what yeah.
We're doing it.
Yeah, we are.
Good
Yeah,
night.
so I feel good about it. Okay. All right, my friend. Okay, Kalia. Seems like everybody.